Okay, chapter 7 of Exodus, part 2 of the series that I'm creating for this Sunday school lesson that would normally be held during conference weekend, but because of conference weekend, the church has set it up to be the week after. But this is the most important story of all Mormonism, so we're doing it today. So watch the introduction, kind of important. Don't think you know everything and can figure it out by watching this video. I had a comment this morning after I was loading the first introduction video and setting up the playlist for you and setting up the home page so you can watch them in order and all that. It was on my video, Putin, not LDS church president, tells Putin to stop Armageddon, and I covered that in the introduction. Sister Lucia, so I was right about Lucia, the Sisters of Fatima. Yeah, the Catholic Pope is gravely concerned. The Jews are gravely concerned. And Mormons, the people that are supposed to be gravely concerned, are not. Dear God, this is a horrific experience we are going through here. But I got a comment which says, you keep saying in your videos the church paid Putin to make war. Watch the intro. Can you please explain how they did pay him and evidence for that the church paid him? Now, he was being nice. He said please. And so I don't know if he's Mormon, if he understands what tithing is used for by the church. When Nelson got up and said a major city yet to be determined in Russia, Nelson was claiming he paid Putin, because the process that it works is that Putin is in charge of the criminal gangs of Russia. He had been working with them when he was a KGB agent in Germany. And so once he became president, he just took all of the criminal organizations and put them under his control. And oligarchs, he chased out the weak and kept the ones who were loyal to him and allowed them to keep their wealth if and only if they, pay to Putin. That's what criminal mob bosses do. That's called a protection racket. And so they cannot do business except for permission by Putin. So the church, in order to get that temple, had to go through one of the oligarchs who is in charge of the arrangement for the payment for land and for a building. Church had to front the money for a temple. So when Nelson got up and said, hey, major city yet to be determined in Russia, the church gave Putin money. Now where's that temple? What did Putin then use the money for? Exactly. Nelson himself is the receipt. When he got up at conference, Nelson himself is the receipt when he tells Mormons in his talk about tithing, as a temple worthiness question, about how tithing is used for purchasing of temples, as well as Book of Mormons. That's the receipt. That is the Judas payment that betrayed all Mormons. And Mormons are not gravely concerned enough, let alone at all. Dear God. And so I don't know if this guy is Mormon. It doesn't sound like it, because he doesn't seem to understand how tithing works. And let me refer you now to Malachi on this issue. Let's see, we got to go to New Testament and then back up. See, chapter 4, and you got to remember, when this was written, it was all one text. It wasn't divided into chapters and verses. This is all one consecutive text. That needs to be understood. And so when he talks in chapter 3 about, will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But you say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house. That's for the poor. Why then did the church use tithing for the payment of buildings in Book of Mormon? What happened there? They keep referring to this in our tithing settlement at the end of the year with our bishops. The bishops are supposed to read this to us, along with making sure that we wear the magic underwear. That's for temple recommended interviews. To be worthy, you have to pay a full tithe. It's a protection racket. I told you the other day, again, Brigham Young started it with the entrance into the Nauvoo temple that he changed the design on the outside of. And so, chapter 4, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven. Joseph Smith. Yes, Nephi comes to him, not Moroni, Nephi comes to him and says, hey, day's coming that shall burn as an oven. Get ready. Oh, hey, by the way, Deuteronomy 18, but I'm going to refer you to Acts instead of Deuteronomy 18. So let's go to Deuteronomy 18. But also you'll see Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings. That's Egyptian. Remember the law of Moses. See, Moses is involved. I will send you Elijah. And so Joseph Smith in the Kirtland Temple, 1836. Ta-da! During Passover. Exodus of the Jews. Moses, Elijah, Elishua. When you reference the Abraham footnote, oh, there isn't a footnote for it. I had to figure it out because they didn't put the footnote. Yeah, Abraham talks about the gospel of Abraham being gospel of salvation, so Elishua, not the Greek form of Elijah, as everybody criticizes Joseph Smith for. And then Jesus also, I think, supposedly comes, Yah of salvation. So you've got all the Godhead coming to Joseph Smith, and it has to do with the keys. I need to make sure we cover that, don't we? We've got so much stuff here to throw in at the beginning. Let's do Deuteronomy first. Hopefully I won't forget. Section 107, verse 91, in case I forget. And 19, which we need to cover. Because again, this is one continuous text, not chapters and verses. And so 15 is the one I'm telling you about, that Joseph Smith was telling us about. I will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, like unto me, man like Moses. And Joseph Smith knew that he was a man like Moses, because they put it in the Book of Mormon. And I'll cover the Doctrine and Covenants, section 8, in case I forget. About the rod of Aaron. I shouldn't forget, it's right there in Exodus for this lesson. This part of the lesson in the series. And so, it then goes on and talks about, but the prophet, which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. That's the prophet of the great and abominable church. The president of the church, of the great and abominable church. And so not only the true prophet, who's supposed to usurp the birthright blessings from the great and abominable church prophet, which is also in here. Joseph Smith is the founding prophet, referred to as seer in the Book of Mormon. And the last days Mormon Moses, man like Moses, is to usurp the birthright blessing from the great and abominable church and restore it to Joseph Smith. And I need to make sure that I cover the lunar eclipses. I'm getting more stuff added in, and I should be writing these down. So 19, verse 16. If a false witness, this is a false accuser, rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong. He just got through telling us of a man like Moses and the false prophet of the latter days, and now gets into if a false witness rises up, then both the men between with whom the controversy is shall stand before the Lord, before the priests and the judges, which shall be in those days. Well, that's kind of impossible. So it's only between the Lord with Joseph Smith. And the judges shall make diligent inquisition, and behold, if the witnesses be a false witness, and hath testified falsely against his brother, then ye shall do unto him as he had thought to have done unto his brother. That is Purim, from the book of Esther. The weapon designed to falsely, to wrongfully murder those who are falsely accused becomes the weapon that is used against the false accuser. This is Purim. This is where that story originates from. This passage in Deuteronomy. So Nephi in the Book of Mormon, Laban says, "You are here to steal from me. I will slay thee." False witness, making false accusations, and assigns the penalty for his false accusation, death. But the Book of Mormon doesn't cover it. They should have. Nephi is justified because Laban is now a false accuser and was going to murder him. This is self-defense. This is the justice system of God. The Justice League. Alright, so let's bring up the lunar, or no. First, Wilford Woodruff. Official Declaration number 1, verse 11. This is just hilarious. The United States of America shut down the church, and here Wilford Woodruff is claiming to be the president of the church. Oopsies! Let's get the picture of the lunar eclipses. Okay. The Lord. Remember, he's not a president of the church. Church was shut down by the United States of America. There are no more presidents. That's it. It's done. It's gone from the face of the earth. Yet, Wilford Woodruff in denial, as many Mormons were pissed with Wilford Woodruff, formed their own Mormon church, called it by different names, still carry on the tradition of Brigham Young with their militant attitudes and their and weapons, as well as polygamy, as well as Adam is our Heavenly Father, among other things, of Brigham Young. Criminal organizations and criminal activities, as we are hearing in the news how they're getting in trouble, but the one main branch still not getting in trouble. What's up with that? Because if the main branch was pardoned by Grover Cleveland, shouldn't the other branches also be pardoned by Grover Cleveland? So why was Warren Jeffs arrested for polygamy? Oh, right, underage brides as well as snap fraud violations? Okay. But the church also! There's more! With tithing! Why can't we get our government to do what is necessary? Are they in on it? Maybe. That's scary. Nonetheless, government will not take down the church. We're waiting for the fall. The Lord will never permit me. Remember, Brigham Young falsely accused Joseph, murdered him, and here Wilford Woodruff, a successor for Brigham Young, and the Lord will never permit me or any other man who stands as president of this church to lead you astray. It is not in the program. It is not in the mind of God. If I were to attempt that, the Lord would remove me out of my place. There it is, Deuteronomy. False accusers, declaration of a penalty, they get the penalty instead for their false accusation. Purim. And so he will any other man who attempts to lead the children of men astray from the oracles of God and from their duty. Joseph Smith was murdered by Brigham Young's orders. June 27th, 1844. Just a month previous was the sign in the heavens of the fall of a religious leader. A total lunar eclipse. May 31st, 1844. Joseph Smith was wrongfully accused and murdered by Brigham Young. So, using the Purim Deuteronomy law of God, the Lord will now use lunar eclipses for any successors and the actual false accuser, as Wilford Woodruff tells us, to show us that they are the great and abominable church with their death. So Brigham Young, yep, lunar eclipse. John Taylor, lunar eclipse. Wilford Woodruff, in between two lunar eclipses. He's special. Lorenzo Snow, lunar eclipse. Joseph F. Smith Sr., lunar eclipse. This one's kind of sad. He was kidnapped by Hiram Smith as a baby or a child, young boy, and then brainwashed in the great and abominable church. And then is an asterisk president still. It's not until Heber J. Grant that the church was reincorporated. So presidents began again under Heber J. Grant. Lunar eclipse. George Albert Smith, lunar eclipse. David O. McKay, lunar eclipse. Joseph F. Smith Jr., lunar eclipse. You seeing the pattern here? I'm seeing the pattern. Are you recognizing the pattern? I just went over it with you and explained it to you. This is God, guys. God is showing Mormons he is pissed. Because we now have Harold B. Lee, Lunar Eclipse. Spencer W. Kimball, Lunar Eclipse. Ezra Taft Benson, Lunar Eclipse. Howard W. Hunter, he was only there for 9 months. Lunar Eclipse. Gordon B. Hinckley, Lunar Eclipse, and the big one of all, Thomas S. Monson. Super total lunar eclipse. Super blood wolf. Total lunar eclipse. It was a big event. And Monson is dead. Because God did it. To show Mormons this is not his church. And guess what's going on right now? We're right smack in the middle of it. And I keep reminding you of it. And I had to revise it because there's solar eclipses merged with it. And we had one in 2014, 2015, and yes, 3 prophets from the 12 apostles. Again, showing God's disapproving, and he's setting things up. It's called a tetrad, and this one technically isn't a tetrad, according to astronomers, because the 19th of November 2021 was a partial. But all the rest are total. Doesn't matter to God. Doesn't matter to God. And so 26th of May 2021, lunar eclipse. Here we go. And I didn't realize until November 19th's one. They did it to me again. Because in 2014 I see the lunar eclipse and I'm going, oh, okay, so I guess should expect to hear in the news, church news, that an apostle will die a month plus or minus, because that was my education. This is my field. I am the expert. I am the only one. I was the apprentice and have become the master. And if you don't understand what that means, what are you doing in your job? Are you not the master in your job? Are you still an apprentice working at a desk, paying for the boss to be the master? That's the sad reality of our economy, though. But nonetheless, tetrad for 2021-2022 started off with May 26th, 2021, then 10 June 2021, solar eclipse. The one in 2020 was on Father's Day. That was a big event. But 19 November 2021, and then all of a sudden when I realized, hey, this is a tetrad we're in, and then I realized, oh, hey, wait a minute, Joseph Smith translation. Monson, we're coming up to the anniversary, the 4-year anniversary. Joseph Smith translation. 12-4. And then realized, oh, it's because the one in 2017 was on the 17th. And so I'm just going freaking nuts, because remember, Nephi, not Moroni, comes to Joseph Smith. When? Do you remember the 21st night, September? Yeah! There's a reason for the season. And what does he tell them? Oh, the day that shall burn like an oven. Then it comes and goes, and I'm going, you waited until the winter. And we're finally out of winter, but the war has begun. And Ukraine has already had their exodus. This is a type and shadow for what's coming, because apparently God's in charge. And so, yes, Hanukkah is involved with both of these, from Revelation 12 and this. And so the next solar eclipse is on the 30th of April. And if it's going to follow the pattern, the church has destroyed me, remember? I'm financially hurting, and I'm surprised I'm still alive. I'm still surprised. It literally is a miracle, guys. I am alive. But, yeah, last time, after the conference, then boom, 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 3 apostles. Scott barely made it in time. And there's some questions about Scott. His family were concerned. He was doing perfectly fine. He was perfectly healthy. All of a sudden he's dead. What's up with that? He was having arguments with the brethren, and the brethren were coming out and talking about how, oh, we get into heated arguments, but we always come out and agree unanimously in order to get things done. Oh, really? Really? Huh. And so, are you guys, murdering to make sure things get done? What happened, Nelson? When Monson was on his deathbed, convenient how he died at just the right time, while you were having him have signatures on his deathbed of getting things done in the church. And so, yes, it's going to conclude on Election Day, 8 November 2022. Oh, dear God. And so we're right smack in the middle of it. We are here. We just had Purim on the birth date of the man like Moses. I've got that series still on the homepage for you. You can watch them in order. You know, his birth and childhood, and I also need to remember to include the book of Jasher about Moses and the Excalibur pulling the rod out of the rock. That's where Excalibur got it from. Chaucer, King Arthur. That's what the Knight's Tale, the Holy Grail, the bloodline. Yeah, that's what it's all about. They weren't looking for the Holy Grail. They were the protectors of the Holy Grail. But you gotta watch out for those killer rabbits. Yeah. And YouTube makes it so that you have to be signed in and an adult to watch it. It's PG-13. Come on. Alright. And so, yeah, just like I was concerned, I think I've forgotten all the other stuff that I was supposed to get to, other than I know that there are some that are in the... Oh, yeah. Yep. I remembered one of them. Section 107. We'll go up from 108. Verse 91. And again, the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood is to preside over the whole church and to be like unto Peter. Moses. The keys of the real president of the church, of Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith had the key of Moses to be the president, not Peter, to preach as an apostle. That is not the keys of the kingdom. Brigham Young lied to usurp the birthright blessing of Joseph Smith. Here is wisdom: to be a Peter, a revelator, a translator, and a prophet. Only for the head of the church. Oliver Cowdery, yes, all but translator, because he was instead patriarch, taking over for daddy. Okay. And so we probably should cover section 8 first. Well, because I only have one program, so I'm going to have to go back and forth. Alright, Old Testament, Exodus 7. And the Lord said unto Moses, See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh. Pharaoh's god. Now Moses is a god to Pharaoh? God is telling Moses that Moses is a god to Pharaoh, who is God. The author is hilarious. He's just so funny. Telling jokes here in his story. Kids must be busting up laughing to this story. And so remember, this is Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism. He is a man like Moses, the founding Christ. 19 July 1840, Joseph Smith even refers to a top stone. Not a chief cornerstone of the cornerstone. Joseph Smith is the cornerstone of Mormonism as the founder. And the top stone is the top of the pyramid, the capstone. Joseph Smith knew it. Why are we being lied to about it? Why was I denied having that change made into our footnotes for the 2009 editions? Yes, if you've watched followed me, you know that I was on that project, that revision of the footnotes. I am more influential in the church than you realize. I have had an impact in your life, either directly or indirectly, and you don't know it. And so Joseph Smith, he's the founder. And Aaron, thy brother, Oliver Cowdery, shall be thy prophet. The spokesman. Thou shalt speak all that I command thee. Deuteronomy 18, man like Moses. And Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh. Oliver Cowdery was the scribe for a month and a half. After coming out and declaring they're almost done, let's get to the part about Aaron and the rod. Then we'll go to the Doctrine and Covenants on this. You can see that they were setting this up for this purpose, to connect it to the Exodus story. And yet D. Michael Quinn, dear God, Mormonism and the magic worldview, dear God. That he send Mormons out of the great and abominable church. And so Pharaoh is the false prophet of the great and abominable church. And it's talking a dualistic prophecy here. It's Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery, and it's the future man like Moses, and he's all by himself, going up against the president of the church, the great and abominable church, to try to save Mormons. He's all by himself. He's been abandoned by everybody. and 3, I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and then God doesn't harden hearts. People harden their hearts. But, yeah, he will say, no, I'm not giving up my power. I'm not giving up my position. I'm not giving up my wealth. I'm not going to be good. And so he'll be a false accuser. Signs in the heavens and the likeness of things on the earth. Joseph Smith translation 12:1. But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt, and bring forth mine armies and my people, the children of Israel, out of Utah by great judgments. The Mormons out of Utah. This is how you liken the scriptures, guys. Joseph Smith already gave us the key to fill in the positions. And so section 101, the parable in 43, this is talking about verse 51, the event that causes a forced exodus of Mormons out of Utah. 19 July 1840 likewise refers to it. The Danite Mormons shall know that I am the Lord. Yeah. When I stretch forth my hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them. Yeah, they'll realize they've been worshiping Lucifer. Uchtdorf, you are the bearers of light. What? What? October 2017 priesthood session. President Uchtdorf. What? You're not supposed to reveal that sacred secret. Mormons aren't supposed to know that they're of the Church of Lucifer, the great and abominable church. What are you doing revealing the sacred secret? No wonder you got dumped from the presidency. He was so pissed in that press conference. And yes, he was assigned over Russia, as we found out later. The temple in Russia. When you learn the truth, everything comes into focus. And Moses and Aaron did as the Lord commanded them, so did they. And Moses was 80 years old. Again, I went over this in last week's lesson, or Sunday's lesson, last week, or for this week. Yeah, it's this week's lesson that I did. I'm jumping ahead into the future. And Aaron was 83 years old, so he's the older brother, when they spake unto Pharaoh. So again, you see a birthright blessing usurpation. Aaron gets the birthright blessing usurped from him. So you're seeing the pattern that the author is trying to portray here, is that there are older Mormons, and yet it ends up being Moses, the one who's not in any position of authority in the church, the great and abominable church, but was raised up as a Mormon. And the Lord spake unto Aaron, saying, 9, here we go with the rod. When Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, shew a miracle for you, then thou shalt say unto Aaron, take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent. Now, the origin of this is that the Egyptian pharaohs had serpent staffs, a staff with a cobra on it, and so I am not going to tell you. If you cannot figure it out by watching this video and seeing on the screen, I am not going to tell you. You can see previous props that have been shelved. But this is the authority of Pharaoh. They all had their serpent staff, and they had other staffs as well. Another had Set, the particular creature that it was. Also was a pharaonic staff. And pharaohs that are buried in a coffin, they'll be portrayed with the flail and the shepherd's crook. Those are also considered staffs, but here, staff. And so you'll see many times throughout scriptures that the prophesied one has a scepter. We can even, we've covered it for Aaron, so we can cover it in the Doctrine and Covenants. Deuteronomy, section 85, verse 7. And it shall come to pass that I, the Lord God, will send one mighty and strong, Gabriel or Ezekiel. Either one means strength, the God of strength. Gabriel was the one in Magna earthquake that knocked out the horn of Moroni. I did those videos. You guys did not appreciate those. Holding the scepter of power in his hand. This is the man like Moses, guys, who's going to set in order the temple, the house of God, because the great and abominable church screwed it up. You are not bearers of light, you are bearers of the priesthood of Ammon, the sun, not Venus. I'm smelling cigarette smoke. I wonder if that's my neighbor who I did the project for. I need to get that for them. But this is going to be a very long chapter. I can see already we're at 44 minutes already. And so, oh look, verse 8. While that man who was called of God and appointed putteth forth his hand to steady the ark of God, which is supposed to be his responsibility, shall fall by the shaft of death. Deuteronomy 18, was it verse 19? The false prophet. There it is, vivid shaft of Jupiter, or Zeus, who is Yah of the Hebrews, which is the Semitic pronunciation. But, you know, instead of Yah of salvation, it's Zeus of salvation. They have the same God. My priesthood. Okay. So, let's go to the internet for, oh, no, we'll cover this first. See, section 3. Joseph Smith loses the 116 pages of this vital information for us in the latter days about the threat to America and the world, the day that shall burn as an oven. And Joseph Smith loses, gets it stolen by Martin Harris, the enemy. You see how vital the Book of Mormon is. first year of the reign of the puppet king of Babylon on Mormonism, Judah, is the sign from Revelation 12, the first year of the latter days. He's also shown in vision the latter sign in heaven from Revelation 19. And so this was July 1828. I confirmed this in the Joseph Smith papers, July 1828. Joseph Smith loses his firstborn son. They go to the Methodist Church for comfort. They say, hey, you were arrested as a glass looker on the 20th of March. Just had that anniversary. 1826. Get out of our church. We don't want your kind. And take your Methodist family with you. Wife and parents. And Martin Harris takes that opportunity to steal all the 116 pages. And so there was a great concern that Martin Harris was going to show it to people who were going to want to murder these people, the Smiths, because of the anti-Mason movement that happened as a result of an incident in Canandaigua, New York on 9/11/1826. Yes, 9/11. Not just for the Chilean coup by Poppy Bush as a CIA officer, agent. Not the Trade Towers incident where I lost a friend from my mission, Peter Paulino, but also the Mountain Meadows Massacre by Bishop Lee, ancestor of Senator Lee from Utah, the Danites. But that incident in Canandaigua, New York, where Joseph Smith Sr. was the Master Mason, and there were Masons involved. Yeah, Joseph Smith Sr. took on the responsibility to save William Morgan's life, getting him out of the country, and then took the responsibility to finish the publication of the book and to get it published. And they can no longer use the Batavian Press because people were on to them. And so Smith Sr. couldn't do it with his name. He can't be the Mormon man like Moses under the Knights Templar Holy Grail bloodline that the Yorkites that he was a part of. That's the highest rank. So Egyptian gold plates? Oh, yeah. Nephi and Joseph Smith, not Moroni. Well, this is all coincidental. And so, yes, Sidney Rigdon is the major author of the Book of Mormon. So Joseph Smith wasn't any composer at all of the Book of Mormon. His job was to distract Martin Harris, who insisted on being a part of it if he was going to pay for it. And so Joseph Smith spent his time copying the 116 pages. He was copying the characters off of the plates, remember? No, it wasn't the plates. He was copying the original manuscript so that he didn't have possession of the original manuscript. Then Martin Harris joins him. Harmony, north of Pittsburgh. That's the connection with Sidney Rigdon. If you put it over in Susquehanna River, where they tried to then create a new scenario after losing 116 pages, you're going to get confused. And Oliver Cowdery was the one who was scribe for William Morgan, and then the scribe for Sidney Rigdon. And so, surprise, Joseph Smith now is with Oliver Cowdery. We go to section 10. The church altered this because they know. Revelation given to Joseph Smith, the prophet, at Harmony, Pennsylvania, in the summer of 1828. Joseph Smith's papers say 1829. That's why it's in this order with the others after section 3. This is how they're going to fix the problem of losing the 116 pages. They're going to put in Nephi, chapter 1 and chapter 2. And then tie it into what was already being worked on by Sidney Rigdon with the Solomon Spaulding manuscript that he got at the Pittsburgh Press. That he died, Solomon Spaulding died, couldn't and never paid for it, and the press can't publish somebody else's work, so they just give it away to those who want it, or burn it and throw it away or whatever. And Sidney Rigdon was there all the time because of the accident he had as a younger man, told by his brother, that caused brain damage, so that despite his love of preaching to people, he needed to plagiarize to get the sermons because of the brain injury that he incurred. So he had his own library because of hanging around print presses to buy the latest books that come out. And ta-da! Got Solomon Spaulding manuscript. And so when it came time for the Smiths to need some kind of a cover book theme, they tell us all about it. And so this wasn't figured out until the summer of 1829. This is an error purposely done by the church to cause confusion, because section 4, February 1829, all missionaries are asked to memorize this. Now behold, a marvelous work and a wonder is about to come forth among the children of men. Really? You haven't even restarted it yet. You tell us you restart it in July. Oops. So they kind of screwed this up. And what you see in section 8, we now can go to the internet, where people have done the comparison chart between the Book of Commandments, chapter 7, and the Doctrine and Covenants, section 8. And so notice that they put Harmony, Pennsylvania, April 1829, and it carried over into the Doctrine and Covenants, Harmony, Pennsylvania, April 1829. And it's not until Joseph Smith in his 1838 history about the first vision, we're not Christian, Jesus is an abomination, of Constantine's, and Nephi coming to Joseph Smith. That history. That Joseph Smith says he throws in Susquehanna County. Yeah, they're kind of screwing up their story. And the reason why they had to alter the story is because of what Joseph did in having Martin Harris steal the 116 pages. Their lives were in jeopardy. They had to go into hiding for a whole year. But because they weren't doing anything with the Book of Mormon, Sidney Rigdon was. Sidney Rigdon kept on going. Nobody knew it was Sidney Rigdon. But the Smiths had to lie low to make sure they don't have the mob come after them to assassinate them. Oh, wait, Joseph Smith was assassinated eventually. Oh, Heber C. Kimball talks about under Masonry that he knew all about this, and yet doesn't tell us that he knew, because he thinks the records were destroyed with the anti-Mason movement. Huh. Oops. Gotcha. And so, verse 3, which became verse 5, is the big difference. But they're talking about Moses bringing the children out of Israel through the Red Sea. David Gaunt insisted that it had to be the Red Sea because it was the Red Sea in our Doctrine and Covenants. No, David. It is the Reed Sea. No. Literally true, not code. David, it's homosexuality, not neglecting the poor. David, no, you're screwing up the footnotes. David. Memories on the corner of my mind. And so, yes, he's talking about the Exodus in chapter 7 or section 8. And so this is what D. Michael Quinn screws up royally. But yes, they did get this from the New Israelites of Vermont. But D. Michael Quinn knows nothing of them. It's Jewish mysticism. And mysticism is not witchcraft. It's not magic. Mysticism comes from the Greek word mysterion, which is initiate, who goes through initiatories in the temple. What are the initiatories? The washing and anointing to become Melchizedek's, which is the word used to replace the too frequent repetition of the word Amen. Christ. We become Christ. The learning of the Jews. And so the tree of life. Yeah. Jewish mysticism. And so yes, it's not a coincidence that Joseph Smith Sr. had tree of life visions, dreams, and then they'd use the cover story. Oh, when we first read the Book of Mormon, it was exactly like my husband's dreams. And so we knew it was true and joined Joseph's church. The mother is hilarious. She knows. Because when it came time to talk about her having supposedly joined the Presbyterians, they weren't Presbyterians, they weren't Methodists, they were Congregationalists from New York, the New Israelites. She puts in her journal, I refer you to my son's account in his 1838 version. She is awesome. And so, oh, remember these words and keep my commandments. Remember, this is your gift. Now this is not all, for you have another gift. And he's talking to Oliver Cowdery. Oliver, verily, verily, I say unto you, which is the gift of working with the rod. Now yes, Justice Winchell came and joined the New Israelites when William Cowdery Jr. and Joseph Smith Sr. were a part of it. And yes, Joseph Smith Sr. was referred to as a master rodsman, but they didn't make money off of it. Why keep doing a job that you're not getting paid for? You kind of need money to live. You die pretty quickly. You kill off your family. And so yes, he had to find other work. But they taught this to their kids. Why would they teach this to their kids? Because it's a fun little game. You teach kids games. Let them play. Have fun. You ever taken coat hangers, the metal coat hangers, and take it apart so that it forms into an L shape, that you hold the short end in your hand, but not tight, just let it hang there. And then get one in the other hand, and then walk over your toilet and see what happens. It's cool. They cross. That's all this rod trick was. It doesn't find treasure. And so Junior, what is he doing? Well, he's a kid. He's not an adult yet. In 1826, he's 20 years old. He doesn't turn 21, which is the legal age of an adult, until December 23rd that year. He's a kid playing with a rod, and people are upset, calling him a witch and getting him arrested for misdemeanor offenses. Dear God, people need to get a grip on themselves. But they used this knowledge that Martin Harris knew of, because he found rocks down the well when he was digging on Martin Harris's farm, working for him. Those seer stones called Urim and Thummim. Oh, learning of the Jews. Huh. Go figure. This is the cover story. So that it takes away from Senior, who was in Canandaigua with William Morgan. It takes away from Sidney Rigdon, who's the major author of the Book of Mormon. Senior had to rewrite the 116 pages, and he was pissed. You can read he was pissed. It's not the Lord, it's Senior. But this is the rod of Aaron. Oliver Cowdery was set up to now be the babysitter of Junior. And they used it to correspond with the Exodus story. Because what's all this all about? The Exodus. And so yes, the Fayette, New York, with the Whitmer family, all cover to distract and take away from Sidney Rigdon, who's about to come forth with a marvelous work and a wonder. So yes, it was a month and a half to finish the whole Book of Mormon. redoing it. This is just hilarious. The real church history is awesome, hilarious. They literally sacrificed their lives to save ours, and Danite Mormons spit on Joseph Smith's grave. This is just horrific. The worst nightmare come true. Alright, where were we? 7. So this is the backstory for Mormons about chapter 7. And so when Aaron has a rod, that's what Joseph Smith was doing. It's about the latter days. It's about the Exodus. The Book of Mormon is all about the Exodus. It's apocalyptic literature. It's not literal history of the native people of America. None of those stories happened in America. And yet you guys all go beyond the mark, both Mormon and ex-Mormon. You're not catching on to what they're trying to do for us. Alright. And so the first thing they do is Moses sues the Great and Abominable Church. That's the presentation before Pharaoh. You are petitioning Pharaoh. Step down. I'm the new president of the church. I'm the true authorized one who's usurped your authority. Step down. This is not your church. I am going to restore it. Of Joseph of Egypt. Remember? Genesis is a separate book. The Jews merged it together with Exodus to form a complete narrative. Joseph technically is the man like Moses. And so Joseph Smith utilizes this change to correct the actual prophecies of the latter days. Joseph Smith is Joseph of Egypt, the founder, and the man like Moses is the latter-day Mormon who will come out of the Great and Abominable Church to restore Joseph's church. And this is what they did. And all Mormons missed this. And not a single person in the universe knows this information but me. Because I wanted to know. And nobody would tell me. And that wasn't good enough for me. And so now Moses has begun. He says, step down. This is not your church. And Pharaoh gets his prophets to send Moses death threats from West Jordan as he thinks he's getting revenge for giving him an episode filing in the courts of the inverted pentagram. After his morning interview with the rabbi from Jerusalem, or Israel. Lawyers counseled with their clients, and we found out 2 weeks later he was hospitalized. And so, yes, he was the one who followed the president of the church's, Great and Abominable Church's, death threat to the man like Moses with the other one, the sorcerer, giving the death threat out in West Jordan. Dear God. And so, yeah, the serpent and the rod thing, that's just the authority. That's all it is. It's the scepter. Who's the rightful scepter? And the author is telling in his story that the rod actually became a snake. You know, it's all real. It's literal history. No. This just tells you that Moses is the true Pharaoh. And that this is the false Pharaoh. That's all this is. Don't read anything else into it. Other than you need to have on your checklist, you need to find the Mormon who sues the church. So, James Huntsman? Nope. No. He doesn't fit any of the other checklists. The checks on the checklist. Nope, nobody else. Okay. Guess there isn't anybody. There is no man like Moses. This is all just a fraud. Joseph Smith is wrong. He didn't know what he was talking about. There is no God. He's not doing lunar eclipses to show Mormons that the Great and Abominable Church is the false church and disapproves. Nope, just a fraud. There will be no Exodus. There will be no Zion. Okay, so yeah, Pharaoh keeps saying no. Nope. And the judges, nope. You're not allowed to petition for a redress of grievances in the First Amendment. Get thee hence. And so he's told again, go to the water and stand by the brink and turn it to red, to blood. Mother, the blood! I really need to get into that. There's a TV series that I got, and I haven't gotten to watching it yet. I'm still in Simon Peter and Simon Peter Investigations. This is season 3. I'm almost finished with that. There's still several more seasons, but let my people go. I tried watching Terminator yesterday, and then I had to help my neighbor with the project that I finished this morning. Okay. And the return to blood. And this is not... This is real, but not real in the sense that they're telling the story. Because, as I've gone over with you before, Ham is actually Chem, and is phonetically the same, thus transliterated into Egyptian as Chem, which means black. That's the definition, the translation of Chem in Egyptian. It's black. Whereas the Latin for Niger and Nigeria, if you remember those countries in Africa, yeah, that means black, the black land. The Egyptian word was Chem. And so in Egyptian, feminine words, or words for land, use the feminine singular ending, which is the T. And so it's Kemet is the name for Egypt. And thus Egyptian, the black land script, language or whatever. And the reason why is because the soil was black, right there along the riverbank. But up in the south, because there's mountains in the south, and so the mountains melt in the springtime and flood the Nile River. That land is red. The soil is red. And so with the flooding of the Nile comes all the red soil from the south up the Nile into the Mediterranean Sea, and the water looks like blood. This is the inundation of the Nile. Now, why is that being used as Moses claiming authority? Well, I went over it with you in the Sunday school lesson about Genesis chapter 1. The waters are separated from the waters, and the dry land rises up. Adam, the D and the M part, is the Hebrew word for blood. The A is the Eye of Horus. And so, in Hebrew, it carries on the Egyptian knowledge of the creation. That of the birth of the last days man like Moses. That's why Adam is with the creation. The first man. The man of blood. It's also corresponding to Osiris's death, as his blood was spilt with the chopping up of his body into 14 pieces and sent into the Nile. The inundation of the Nile, the flooding, is the telling of the story of Osiris. Same story. Creation, Nile flooding, Osiris with Horus. Osiris is murdered, his son rises to restore the throne from the murderer of Joseph Smith. Moses is saying, I am the restorer. Step down, Pharaoh. That's what's going on there. And so, yes, Moses parting the rivers, Jesus parting the rivers, or Joshua parting the rivers, Elijah, Elishua, yeah. Waters are separated, dry land appears. Creation, the promised land, Zion of the man like Moses. That's what all this is about. It's just unfortunate that the Exodus tale says that the Mormon Danites refused to believe. So it's a tragedy. Tragedy! Tragedy! And the Book of Mormon warns of this. Ether, Moroni, it is Moroni in this case, are the ones who record the entire destruction of their people. This is what the Book of Mormon warns Mormons of. You need to find your Christ. You need to hearken to him so that you're not Deuteronomy, Joseph Smith history, or Acts. Joseph Smith says exactly like Acts, destroyed. Alright, and so they become blood. And so, yes, as a result, the fish dies. The soil kills them off. Yeah, you can't drink it. And there's blood. Blood in the Nile. And so they still refuse to accept his authority. And Egyptians digged around the river for water to drink. And so, yeah, they're trying to drain the actual water from the muddy red water. Because they actually don't mix. You can weed out. It'd be better to actually boil the water and then have a little tent type thing that captures the evaporated water and then have it fall into jars so you get the pure water from the boiling. That's the better way to do this. But nonetheless, 7 days are fulfilled. I mentioned it last time in the last video for the first part of this Exodus, but this is Passover. This is Passion Week. He has ridden on his animal, as I talked about in the last lesson for 1 through 6. Every author uses a different animal, whether it's King David or Jesus or Moses. They all have different animals. Even Solomon had a different animal. But Solomon tells us that they're all supposed to be the same symbolism because just like his father, he used a different animal. So, there you go. 7 days are fulfilled. Oops, there's the Babylonian influence after the Lord had smitten the river. but it's referring to the 7 days of creation. Again, it's the Babylonian influence. There were no 7 days of creation. Babylon, superstitious, and so the number 7 was a superstitious, bad luck number, and they created a calendar with 7 days in a week, and so the 7th day became a superstitious day where they ordered nobody to work on that day, and it became a day of rest. And thus got put in our Bible because the author is in the Roman period. Just in case you need to be reminded on that. Alrighty, so there's chapter 7. And I think we're done. An hour and 21 minutes, dear God. I told you this needed to be a series.